Welcome to Motion to Adjourn, the podcast about the work that continues with the Birmingham City Council, beyond what happens on Tuesdays during council meeting.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Or in the committee meeting.
Aye.
After the official motion to adjourn, the councilors continue work on behalf of the city and its residents. Welcome to the Motion to Adjourn podcast. I am your host, Anaya Kenyon. I serve as project manager for the Birmingham City Council. Today, we are diving into some of the most significant items that were mentioned during Tuesday's council meeting. On Tuesday, the council voted to implement a 2-week delay following a presentation from the city's Planning, Engineering, and Permits Department and a public hearing on the proposed data center ordinance. During this period, the existing moratorium on new data center permits will remain in effect. Now, let's hear from Councilor Darrell O'Quinn, co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Over the last several weeks, the council has been working, the council and other bodies have been working on updating our zoning ordinance to account for what a data center is, because our code prior to this point doesn't include a definition for what a data center is. Therefore, it didn't also include the various scales of data centers or the various types of data centers. And there, were no protections against some of the nightmare scenarios that we've seen that play out in other communities across the country. So witnessing those nightmare scenarios led us to considering a temporary moratorium on permitting for those types of facilities. So that's currently in place. And that has given us the time to develop a zoning code that would actually create a definition, identify all the various categories, identify the zoning categories that are appropriate for those various scale data centers, and then what conditions each type of data center would have to meet in order to get permitting for construction.
The ordinance under consideration would establish some of the strongest data center regulations in the Southeast, setting clear standards for environmental safeguards such as water usage, on-site power generation, battery storage, noise levels, and lighting. The council has approved a grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation aimed at modernizing traffic signals and strengthening pedestrian infrastructure. This $10 million federal grant would support improvements such as enhanced ADA compliance signaling, countdown timers, sound cues, and accessible push-button crossings. Now, let's hear from Councilor Darrell O'Quinn, chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, on how this investment would advance pedestrian safety.
It's actually an application for the federal DOT's Safe Streets for All program, and it would specifically ask for $10 million of funding. $2 million of that would be local match from the city, but the project would be to address our pedestrian crosswalks in the most, walkable parts of the city. So anybody who's familiar with the parts of the city that actually have signalized crosswalks will know that, in many places, the crosswalk signal may not function properly. It's kind of questionable if there's a button that's there, whether it works or not. It certainly doesn't account for people who are visually impaired. So a modern day crosswalk, folks may have experienced elsewhere, actually includes some auditory cues to help people know who can't see the signal, help them know what's going on with the signal. So it may be when the signal is flashing for the walk, that there's a bird chirp or something, that is a universal standard. Anyway, the project is to specifically upgrade our crosswalk signaling. We want to have our infrastructure accommodate all modes, and especially our ADA community. And again, our current signals, don't account for someone who may be visually impaired. And, the infrastructure is likely, in many cases, several decades old. I know for some of our signals, the lights, the traffic control signals, I've talked with staff about that. And in some cases, the equipment is so old that it's not even manufactured anymore. And so our staff in the past, before we started updating those signals, have literally been taking old equipment, salvaging parts to make repairs. So this is part of a overall, comprehensive approach to modernize the infrastructure in the city of Birmingham.
The proposed upgrades would prioritize the most walkable, high-traffic areas of downtown, Southside, and Northside. If successful, the city would provide a $2 million match to complete the upgrades. The council voted to appoint 2 members to the Birmingham Public Library Board, with both terms expiring December 31st, 2030. The new appointees are Nia Nelms and Sam South. The 9-member board is tasked with managing and controlling the Birmingham Public Library and all other city-owned library properties. The board makes decisions to acquire for the city land, money, securities, books, or other property for library uses. Thanks for listening to Motion to Adjourn. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to learn more about your city and local government. Also, follow us on our socials on Instagram and Facebook at City Council BHAM. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.